Hello fellow jet surfers. So what we've got is a noise in my exhaust. So somewhere in here I've got something rattling. I need to gain access to the exhaust to see what's going on inside. I'm hoping to remove the engine, disconnect it from here, get the exhaust out. I've already took out my spring ping pong ball and fixing of here. I've put a camera up there. Can't see anything in the exhaust because obviously it hits some sort of baffle as it goes through here. I'm thinking the rattle that I can hear in this exhaust could be a dislodged baffle. Hopefully nothing like a ring piece or something has come out of there and into there, but the jet ski runs. Jet ski's all been washed out from previous use. Just unfortunately I seem to have a rattle inside this exhaust when I tip it up and down. So I've had a quick look of what I'm going to be undoing and made a bit of a list in a methodical manner going around what I'm going to be taking off. So start from the top, we're going to be taking off the spark plug cap, then we take the spark plug out and make it easier to get the whole engine out. Then we'll do the water inlet. The exhaust will unslot later on. The drive shaft coupler will unslot later on. Then I'll be looking to take off the earth strap. Then I'll be looking to take off the starter motor, so I'm going to unplug that from there. So both of them I can unplug. I can also unplug the crankshaft sensor just here. So unplug that wire, unplug the starter motor wires, take off the earth strap. Moving on round, get into the carburetor throttle linkage, unclip that down there, pop it off, come up to the clamp, pop it off there. I'm going to mark that with a piece of tape so I know where that was sitting. I'm going to take off this cover here, make it a bit easier so I can see the cable underneath. And then moving back up to sort of 11 o'clock, I'm going to take off the telltale pipe. And that should be everything bar the 4 engine bolts, the 4 mountings to undo. So I make that about 12 points to all undo. 4 engine mountings included as 1 point, and we'll see how we get on. 2018 Jetsurf. Okay, so I've undone everything I've needed to undo. Working my way all the way around, all the different pipes, all the different wires. Had to take off the sensor there because it was just awkward because I had a screw there on the earth strap that was just not happening. The Allen key rounded out, so I ended up putting a slot in the screw so I could turn it into a flathead screwdriver screw. Cable tied back the wires there. Come around to the cable. I have marked it with tape, but in actual fact that clamp is fixed on the wire, so there's no adjustment issues there, but you just never know, dear, so you might as well mark everything before you remove it. I did mark the crankshaft sensor. You can see it, a little line I've put on there. That's got a line also on here. Where are we? Just there, look. So because that's got sideways movement, I wanted to make sure that aligns back where it came off. So we're ready to just wiggle the engine out, we think. So it should come off the exhaust, out of the coupling, engine comes back a bit. Let's see if we can get that lifted out. Yep, so there's the engine out. Quite simple to manoeuvre up and down actually. You just push it one side and then up the other, and then it sort of slides out. So I've had a little look over it while I've got it out. Probably give it a nice clean underneath. Now I can actually get to it. It's a clean engine anyway, but might as well get a bit more clean rag and stuff on it. Have a look in the port there. What can we see? Looks alright. We're hoping that the piece that's in the exhaust isn't part of my piston rings or anything like that. So that's the engine out. Let's have a look in the bay. You can strap some of these cables out of the way so you can work in here easier. So I need to pull the exhaust. Might as well have a look at the drive shaft coupler while we're here. That looks pretty good. All moving nicely, not bound. So there's no corrosion particularly holding up my drive shaft or impeller. I'm just going to clean the engine bay out, get rid of any of this dirty muck that sits under the engine cradle. Let's see if we can get that exhaust out. So just a quick one. I gave it a little wiggle, gave it a pull, went to the back, pushed my thumb against it there, and that just slid out. So that's really good. So that's come out nice, quick and easy. Give it a wiggle, something snarled up down there. There it is. Let's put that out on the floor. Okay, so general condition, a little bit rusty, corrosion, gets a lot of sea use. Back end, that's a plug that's sealed up, so I don't need that. It's not part of my system, probably a different Jetsurf. Underneath, no holes in it, just corrosion, so we'll clean all that off. Might even treat it with a bit of paint or something, providing nothing's wrong inside. So let's have a listen. That's what we want to know. What's in there making that noise? So I've just had a good clean of the whole exhaust. There's no corrosion, which is amazing for a 5-year-old exhaust. But that's probably due to me wiping it down all the time, spraying silicone sealant over it, keeping the board in the upright position, stowed, so all of the rubbish runs off the back. The only bit I can see, I don't reckon it's eaten through. It's certainly not a hole. But other than that, all looks pretty good. Don't know what that plug does at the back there, but not for my model. But yeah, it's cleaned up quite nicely, and I'm pleased that it's not rotting out yet. So that's testament to Jetsurf equipment again. So we'll open it up and see if that rattle is a baffle come dislodged. Well, that's it all out, and I'm gonna have to buy a new exhaust because there's definitely something inside here that's about the size of the end of my thumb. That's a piece of aluminium that's about, looks like a bit of tube, but I can see it when I look down the exhaust. It's come off inside. It's quite big. It's obviously clearly meant to be in there. So at least it isn't part of my rings or part of my engine. So while everything's out, I'll probably give this engine a good clean up with some cotton wool buds, get in all the nooks and crannies, give that a good clean. It's pretty good anyway. And while I wait for a new exhaust to come. The reason I've opted not to open it is because those screws are incredibly difficult to undo. I just don't think they're going to undo. I think I'll also upset the seal, so that's not worth tampering with either. It'll probably be never sealed the same again if I did open it at all. Plus I've got what could be slight corrosion starting there, so that could be the end of the exhaust, and that's on the bottom. Is it on the bottom? Yeah, bottom corner. So if that's written on there in the engine bay, it's actually top right corner. Then I've got a tiny bit of bubbling there. So that's the start of a hole in the exhaust, isn't it? So I think just opt for a new one, €400. Then I haven't got to take it out again or repair it. Just start fresh, new exhaust. Engine wise, it's been brilliant. So aluminium just corrodes, unfortunately. So that's the engine all back in. New exhaust, slotted on, pulled through by the cable ties. That sealed that in there. Didn't pull it too hard because you are pulling against the little spring screwing bit there. There's a bit of plastic, you don't want to overstretch that. Strain it. So exhaust is in, pipes are back on. Nice new pipe that it came with here, so that's a nice clear pipe as opposed to my black one. Water outlet, water inlet, spark plug back in, although it's not tight because I haven't put the clip back on either. Throttle cable back on, bolted on. Make sure you feed it. There's some washers under there. Make sure you follow the path, the manufacturer's path, otherwise the cable won't tighten up or operate properly. So you're looking for it to come back to the stops. So although I labelled that cable as well, I wasn't sure if it was fixed in that clamp or not. It's not fixed in that clamp. So you can pull it through a little bit or push it through a little bit. But ideally, you're trying to get your throttle to touch onto the throttle stops, top and bottom. So that's worth bearing in mind, that your throttle cable is sitting how you want and you'll get full throttle. And then the 4 engine mount bolts, they all got put back in, bolted up. I think if I was to do it again, I'd probably change them for hex because they're a bit of a pain on Allen keys. So hex bolts maybe on the engine mounts. Coming around to the electrics, put the crankshaft sensor back on exactly on the line where I took it off. Again, if I was to undo that again, I probably wouldn't undo these two. I'd just take it off here and here. Earth strap back on the starter motor plug back in the multi-plug. Battery multi-plug back on. Cable tied the wires up so that nothing's loose. And that is everything back as it should be. And we'll give it a test tomorrow. The true test is that we don't get any exhaust gases leaking around here. I have, although it's got rubber grommets in there, I've put some PTFE tape around it and then pushed it on tight. So we shall see how gas sealed that is. Hopefully it's a good seal, because if we get gas in here, we obviously swamp it out of oxygen and then that'll affect the carburation. So we don't want any exhaust leaks into the engine bay. And that's it, new exhaust in. Pleased with that. Here we are, putting the new exhaust in. Same product code, A4064. It's got a nice new flexi pipe on there. It comes with new ball and spring. I've put these cable ties on the end to help pull it through. Once it goes through the hull and out there, that'll help me lodge it and seal it into there. I'm not going to put any particular sealant around there because I don't think the old one had any on either. So there's good rubber seals for the hull and for the ping pong valve and spring in there. So right, we'll put it in.